Howdy y'all. It's early April here in western Kentucky, and that means one of a few things, but mostly hickory chicken hunting. Depending on where you're at in the U.S., we call it hickory chicken hunting, we call it dryland fishing, we call it morel hunting, molly mooching, as some of the folks in Appalachia call it. I've even heard it referred to as hunting muggins. I've never figured out exactly where that originates from, but yeah, so we're morel hunting today. And early April, you're going to find, here in my neck of the woods, we find the littler mushrooms. Sometimes they're the darker ones, and then you find the lighter ones both this time. But they're usually the shorter little fellas. And, you know, as from the beginning of April all the way up into the middle of March, or May, you're going to continue to find morel mushrooms depending on how the winter went and you know, the temps. Now the best morel hunting is going to be when the daytime temperatures are in the 60s and your nighttime temperatures stay in the 40s, especially after it reaches that point and then you get a decent little rain. But when it's early this time of year, it's almost too, they're almost too tasty to resist getting out and at least looking. I don't expect to find too many, but you know, it's just a delicious little fresh taste of spring. And the way Kentucky weather can be, it's unforgiving. It can be an unexpected cold snap and freeze them and dry the little fellers up, or it could be 80 degrees and burn them up in a couple days. So with morel hunting, you kind of got to stay on it and get out and look around every 3 to 4 days. You don't have to be out there every day. Some folks say they sprout up, you know, overnight and are, you know, they grow an inch or two overnight, and that certainly is the case with the larger mushrooms. But definitely with the little fellas, you want to get out about every 3 or 4 days and just scout. And yeah, so I'm going to take you along with me today if it's something that you're interested in. Obviously, before you consume any wild edibles in your area, make sure that you consult with a local expert. This is just for this is really just to get you out looking so that you can practice IDing mushrooms. But I'll give you, at the end of the video, if we find any, I'll give you some tips on how I prepare them, you know, once you get that go ahead from a local expert. But if it's something you're interested in, I want to take you along with me. I'm going to show you a few of my tactics for IDing them and how to find them. So stay tuned, we're going to get at it. When you pick morels, you need to take with you something like this. This is a mesh tater sack. You need to put your morels in here before you take your very first step when you pick it, before you even get up from where you're at. You know, just drop the little booger down in there. And the purpose for that is so that, you know, the spores can fall out and propagate and continue to grow. And that's how you ensure that, you know, they come back year after year. All right, so this is one of my favorite places to start looking. We're down in the bottom of a holler, and what I'll do is I'll walk all along this holler, quite a good ways up on both sides of this little creek area, and then I'll go up to the top of a ridge, and then I'll follow it down to the next holler, and so on for as long as long as I can take it. And yeah, this is a perfect area. There's water, there's greenage, there's a lot of leaf litter, and there's a good amount of dead trees. So an area like this, we've got a couple dead trees, and there's leaf litter, but it's not terribly dense, is the perfect place to start looking. Mushrooms thrive from the decay of the trees. It's what feeds them, gives them the energy and things they need to sprout. All right, you see this little fella here? This is a mayapple. See, when they start to sprout, that is a good indication that the mushrooms are starting to pop. Now, usually they're a little bigger than this, so this isn't boding well for us today that we're going to find any mushrooms. But when they start to pop, that's when the temperatures are just right for the mushrooms to start sprouting up. This is an excellent area, by the way, to start looking for morels. You want to make sure when you're morel hunting that anywhere you start to find these little mayaples, that you kind of give it a gander. Look around, high, low, just take a pause, get down on ground level. And yeah, because they require about the same type of soil nutrients and climate and environment for mushrooms to pop. Alrighty, so speaking in terms of easily identifiable plants that are also up in the same time hickory chickens are violets. You know, there's several trilliums and phlox is starting to pop up and things of that nature, but to someone who hasn't been out in the woods much, you might not recognize those type things. But violets are easily identifiable. They have those little heart-shaped leaves, and usually have a blue or a purple and yellow bloom. But yeah, when the chickens start to pop, the little heart-shaped leaves start to pop up on the ground, and that's a good indicator as you get out and start looking. All right, so we've come down a little bit further in the holler, and you can see that we've got some tulip poplars, and we've got a few elms out there, and a lot of dead and decaying trees down in the bottom, and those really feed those little morels, little hickory chickens. So that's a good place to go look. Pretty much anytime you find a pile of dead limbs or dying trees out in the wood, that's where I give a good gander. I mean, especially if you're not very inept at tree ID yet. So we're gonna get down there and give it a good look. I spotted the first chicken. She beat me to it, but I just wanted to give you an idea of the terrain. See, we've got some tulip poplars over here. So it doesn't always have to be elms, even though a lot of people swear by it. But just want to give you a scan of the terrain. See, there's a little green foliage out there, and that's a little spring that runs through that little bed right there. And there's the ridge of another holler, and we've got a holler just to the back of us. And this is the perfect terrain because you've got a mixed bag of trees here, like a good variety. So here's what the ground looks like. You've got some other little spring things sprouting, you know. I can't properly ID these just yet. I can't remember. I know what they're called, but it's eluded me at the moment. But, and the May apples are just starting to pop. And this is where she found that little booger. See? And we've got maple leaves. Got some oak. You're going to want to pinch it off right at the base. Getting down close to the ground. All right, and bear with me just a second, folks. All right. Okay, so one quick thing about hickory chickens. Okay, tip for IDing. They look like a teeny tiny little Christmas tree most frequently. They got a hollow stem. Can you see that? They got a hollow stem, and they've got that classic honeycombing or pitting right there. When you're down here and you've picked your hickory chicken, you're going to want to stay squatted in that position and just kind of give it a gander. Look around, because frequently where you find one, you'll find another. Maybe not so in this case, but you just kind of stay squatted on that level and give it a look. Look up under the edges of the leaves, look up under the edge of little logs you see spotted, because frequently where you find one, you find more. My cat, being a wild woman over there, she caught a crawdad and she's perched up, proud of herself. What you got? What you got, kitty? Did you catch a crawdad? You ferocious beast. What you got? Goodness gracious, kitty. Oh! Wild woman. Anyway, back to the hunt. So a thing I like to do is kind of get down the edge of the creek bed to where I can look across the tops there. Sometimes you'll see them sticking up. And see, right here we've got a young sycamore tree. And you know, a lot of people swear that the only place you'll find them is under elm and maybe tulip poplars, but elm is their go-to. But yeah, a sycamore tree frequently is where I find my large mushrooms, the big giant guys. And you stay tuned and keep following along, and I'm going to show you how to find those guys a little later in another video. They're not up yet, so. But yeah, as you're walking along, find you some dead trees on the ground and stuff. Walk right along the edge of those, looking and being very deliberate of your steps. Try not to just go trudging around, because that's how you step on the little tender guys, and they can't take much, and they'll pretty much disintegrate. And you know, there's a lot of them up right now, probably sprouting, that are just under the leaves. And they'll really be popping in a couple days, but if we come plowing through here, we're going to stomp them all down before they're up. Yeah, I just kind of go to the base of trees and just kind of scout the ground, take a wide swing. You gotta do a 360 really. Stand in one place and just look all around. And then move on to your next spot. So pretty much all the literature that I've read on how to find these boogers, and you know, all the knowledge that's been handed down to me has pretty much been consistent, that it's not necessarily always the dead trees, but frequently the dying trees that produce the best environment for morels. And I'm not really seeing any right now, but like I said, it's quite early. But yeah, places like this where there's a big blemish in the tree that's dying, that is a perfect spot to start looking for morels. You know, I've know for a fact that I've found them here in the years prior, and I'm sure we will find some more here in the next couple days. But I just want to give you a heads up that sometimes it's those dying trees and not the dead ones that produce the mushrooms. Alrighty, on final notes, you know, we've walked in at least a mile, and that means that we've got that mile to walk out. So that's something to consider. And we found just our one little chicken, but you better believe we're gonna fry it up in some butter and eat it. But yeah, so things to consider when you're new to hickory chicken hunting is to make sure you know the woods well, or at least know the area well, know the terrain, keep your bearing. Also, make sure that you get permission from the landowner. Have some gumption about yourself. Don't go trucking around in places that you're not supposed to. Be thankful for someone. Make sure to show some gratitude if they've given you permission to use their woodland. Yeah, it's when you're out in the woods in the spring, tread lightly. Be gentle on the little plants underfoot. They're tender this time of year. Try not to go plodding or trotting through. You know, they say deer will actually watch their footing when they walk out. They're very deliberate about their steps so that they don't break the little tender plants underfoot. And I think that's a really good idea to implement, is to just be gentle in nature, especially in spring when everything is a baby still. But yeah, closing thoughts. Again, just to reiterate, make sure that you get permission to use the land. Be careful when you're out. Tread lightly. Get advice before you eat wild edibles. And make sure to use your mesh bags. Don't ruin it for everybody. Don't go plodding into an area and just destroy every resource there. Yeah, but get out and enjoy yourselves. It's very invigorating this time of year to get that kind of crisp April spring air on your body. But yeah, stay tuned if you want to see some more of this mushroom hunting. As the season progresses, I'm going to find some of those big ones and show you. There's so many different varieties of hickory chickens. It's kind of, most people think that there's just a couple, but there's handfuls of different types. And we're going to find several of them here in this area. So, anywho, I want to get going. Wait, heard a hoot owl. See if he'll do it again. Guess he got camera shot. Anyway, take care of yourselves. Hope to see you next time. Thanks for stopping by. We made it home with our little loot. Obviously, this one little chicken isn't enough to warrant firing up a skillet or anything. So what you want to do is, if you want to hang on to your chickens for a few days until you get enough to make a proper mess, is to just fill yourself a bowl with some tap water. In my case, I like to use spring water. Just put a little Deer Park in there and give it just a tiny little sprinkle of salt, and put them in the bottom of your fridge and just let them stay in there and stay cool. And yeah, they'll keep for, I've kept them up somewhere along the lines of, you know, at least 4 or 5 days easy without them turning mushy or anything. So yeah, if you want to hang on to them until you get ready for a mess, just water, a little spritz of salt, and put them in the bottom of the fridge.